Hey guys, how are we doing? Crypto Insight UK here, bringing you back another video. So today, actually, we haven't got tons to update on. I'm going to just show you a bit of TA, look at liquidity pools a little bit, and look at some like leverage and what's going on there. But just to start with, I wanted to say yesterday we saw Besant basically say that uncertainty could have peaked. He said he's not a market caller, but he doesn't expect the VIX to go any higher than it has been. He also did say that basically they would buy back more treasuries should they need to. Where was it? I can't find the exact tweet on that, but you should read the whole interview with, or you should watch the whole interview, sorry, with Besant on Bloomberg. It's very interesting. He basically says they'll buy back more treasuries if they need to, which is essentially saying that they will QE if they need to. So just looking at leverage to start with, what we can see in the short term is that it does look like Bitcoin should head up towards this $92,000 region imminently as we touch into liquidity above us. As I said, when we get into liquidity, we normally climb through that. However, we still have this deep liquidity below us. It's not as deep as above. And as you can see, more and more people are adding shorts. This is where you can see that if we just zoom in just specifically into this area, you can see that even in the last few hours, these red bars are increasing, meaning more people are adding shorts. Remember, these are where short positions would get stopped out. So if you start to get a move into this area here, you can actually, I would imagine that to accelerate into this liquidity. But as I said, there is still liquidity below us, and we could take that first before going to move up. So that's what I would point out to you guys here. That's on the hourly time frame. Looking at that also, we're going to look at the 4-hour Bitcoin chart here. What we can see is we have broken and held above a 4-hour downtrend or descending trend line. These are good for like understanding market structure and at least momentum of moves. You can clearly see that the lower highs, although they are still in play, they're not at the same speed. Otherwise, we would be below this line and not closing above it. So you can see at least momentum to the downside is waning. Whether we've reversed yet or not, up for debate because we haven't seen much in terms of volume support this breakout. However, we have broken out and back tested this descending trend line. That's provable. So with that being said, like, what am I looking at? Personally, I'm looking at plays on ENA. I've been talking about this. We've been looking at this chart for a little while. I've been dollar cost averaging into it. I'm looking at a short-term leverage play on ENA. And pretty much whenever I talk about these sorts of plays, I get stopped out of my position. But I think I'm up to about 39 cent is my take profit. Literally just got in. So say 39. It's just below 39 cent. And then my stop loss is pretty tight to the downside. Basically below our recent wicks. Just trying to gamble on the fact that Bitcoin has and will continue to move up here, and I think that ENA will follow some aggressive price action similar to how CRV did out of its lows and its range. I was comparing those two charts, and I think that ENA's got that move coming. Whether I'm right or wrong on that, that's the trade that I'm making. A 10 to 5 risk to reward. 10 to 1, 10.5 to 1 risk to reward is pretty decent from anyone's book. So a trade up to like this sort of area would be fantastic. It also, the reason I've gone for this area is because you could sweep that liquidity there, but there's also like if you draw a broadening wedge in here, it gives you that sort of target. Again with ENA, as other tokens are displaying similar things. Higher like bullish divergences on multiple different time frames, stochastic RSI in the gutter on the 4-hour, but it's very heavily dependent on what Bitcoin does in the short term. Also bleeding out against Bitcoin, provable by Bitcoin dominance being pretty much at all-time highs. Having said that, XRP again looks pretty strong compared to the rest of the market. Came out of its leverage zone, holding the DCA zone now. Again, similar to Bitcoin and what I've just shown you with the short squeeze, looking like if we do get a breakup above this recent resistance that we keep hitting our head against, you should probably pretty quickly squeeze at least at like 230, maybe above to 250 sort of range. And if we look at the XRP ETH chart and the XRP Bitcoin chart, XRP ETH is still ripping it against, so XRP against Ethereum is still looking good. no matter what anybody says. On the weekly time frame, this is something I wanted to talk to you guys about. The stochastic RSI on the weekly has crossed bullish now on XRP ETH, and the standard RSI is, everyone's saying bearish divergences, and I normally would agree, but I've been saying that this is vertical accumulation for XRP ETH. I think XRP is one of the leaders in strength this cycle. Just keeps grinding higher, and at some point I think we'll get the pops similar to what we did here. And instead of us basically just like doing this and cooling down, like this is what I mean by like grinding higher, what we're doing actually is we're doing the same thing, but we're just doing it upwards. So that pop should still come, and it should still look aggressive, if I'm right with my thesis there compared to what others are saying. So that's what I'm expecting there. XRP Bitcoin has cooled off significantly. Stochastic RSI literally waiting to turn bullish, could be lipping bullish now. Depends on, again, the next few days, but we're holding key previous resistance as support now for XRP Bitcoin, and a similar story on XRP dominance. We've broken out of our potential Wyckoff accumulation. We've created a range in the sign of strength phase. We need to get that close above 6%, and then you can be targeting some higher targets there for XRP. So that's basically what I'm looking at the minute. The reason I picked ENA is just because I'm looking at that chart quite a lot. There are a lot of other charts that look pretty bullish as well, but it does all hinder on what Bitcoin wants to do, and Bitcoin's pretty much hindering on the stock market in the short term. So it's just about what may or may not happen over the next few days in crypto and in equities, and what Donald Trump may come out and may not say. But in the longer term, I'm super bullish. Medium term, I'm pretty bullish. And short term, I think we're very close to, if not have hit the bottom, with that tiny bit of liquidity below us. But I think it's only a limited amount of time until the macro and the narrative starts to shift bullish as well, because if not, something will break around the world, whatever that might be, and that is possible. I think if you zoom out and look, say, 50 years time, and look back at the period we're in now, you could probably say we're in like World War III trade war. Whether that escalates into actual kinetic war, I'm not saying that it will. Please don't like quote me on that. I just think that if you take a zoomed out perspective and look at what's going on, this is what it is, like, in my opinion. It doesn't seem like it at the time. Just like if you look back at the C19 period where everyone was like locked inside, and you look at that historically, it looks awful. If you wrote about that, you'd be like, wow, what a horrible time. Yet if you lived through that time, although it wasn't great and it wasn't exactly what we wanted, it wasn't horrible, it wasn't awful. And I feel like that's kind of like what this will look like in the future. Yes, there's volatility in the markets, huge volatility in the S&P, more than we've ever seen, volatility in the dollar, volatility in gold. Financially, this looks like war, but it's not an awful time to live through because we're in crypto. And yes, crypto's been volatile and fluctuated, but I think that's just a thought to take with you, whether you agree or not, I don't know. But I think that maybe in 50 years' time, we will look back at this period and think, oh, wow, that was really volatile, and a lot was going on there, and like it was revolutionary and all this sort of stuff. And I think at the back of revolution comes aggressive price action one way or another. And I think it'll be to the upside, because what I think happens is you either solve the war or the war comes, whatever that war might be. I don't think it'll be kinetic, and not in the way that not in the way that we're used to anyway, because that would mean the end of civilization. So if I'm wrong, then if I'm wrong in terms of saying that we go to the upside, then we've probably got an awful event incoming, which could happen. But I'm not going to be as worried about my crypto bag if that does happen. So that's basically one factor negating my the downside bias from people. And if we sort things out / go to war and it's not as awful as we think, both of those things probably increase the chance that crypto is going to go up in price. Sort everything out, everyone will be bullish for a bit, and the cryptos will rally. And we don't sort everything out, everyone's going to print in their own countries, and crypto probably rallies. So that's where I am. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please do share, hit the subscribe button, and the like button as well helps me out, and it's free to do. Peace up, A-Town down, as Crypto Insight UK would say.